Welcome back, everybody, to your source for fantasy hockey news. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Monday edition. Big week on tap for all of the fantasy GMs in the NHL world. And that means Steele and I have waiver wire targets, big time bets, some personal news from the Minnesota Wild's number one goaltender and Marc-Andre Fleury. And we're taking a look at some of these all-star snubs. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You heard the music and you know what time it is. It is time for the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Monday edition. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Steele and I would not be anywhere without all of the love and support of our listeners, and we hope this fantasy news and breakdowns Monday to Friday helps you at least stack a little bit of paper. Speaking of which, we got a bunch of good big-time bets for tonight's mini board coming up at the end of the show, but in between, Steele, we have a lot to talk about. We have some news from Marc-Andre Fleury. We're going to kick the show off with that. We got all-star snubs, and of course, these waiver wire opportunities now down this next couple, I would even say 6-week stretch, Steele, can really make or break your ability to stay in the mix for the money in your leagues. So let's make sure you are tuned and tapped in for those. You can check out the YouTube shorts on our YouTube channel as well. Steele's bringing that fire with the waiver wire targets every Monday, so make sure you check out the channel. Steele, I'm fired up today. And before we get to it, my friend, I would just like to hit our listeners with this. We appreciate this platform. I have gone through some stuff with my family the last couple of days, and I just want to say, make sure you show love to your loved ones. Life is precious. We come out here and talk about a game that we love, and I love our listeners, Steele. So I just got to get that off the chest because looking at this game, coming on here and doing this show with you, I love it. Make sure you show that love to your family because life is precious. Now, seriousness is over. We're getting down to the brass tacks, Steele. Marc-Andre Fleury, a bit of this family note. There's something going on with this goaltender.
Yeah.
You're close to this team. What do you think about this situation, fantasy and otherwise, going on in the blue paint in Minnesota?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit surprising to hear. I did see Michael Russo's tweet about the Minnesota Wild and Marc-Andre Fleury, clearly dealing with something personal the last week even. And finally, after that tough loss to the Buffalo Sabres, he even said it in one of his tweets where he's never seen Fleury do this before, smashing his stick, throwing stuff, apologizing to his teammates for his poor play. 5 goals is good enough to win. It should be good enough to win every single time. And he was very upset with his play in that Sabres game, in that 6-5 Sabres loss the other day.
Yeah.
And clearly something's going on. And I don't want to put too much speculation on what's going on, whether it's something mentally, something going on with his game, if he just thinks that he's not playing good enough, something personal with his family. I don't want to put too much speculation because, again, he's only gone for the next 2 days. He's made it clear that he will be back with the team on either Tuesday or Wednesday morning. Again, there's just not too much information on it, but clearly something is hindering his game and hindering his play that is affecting, and he needs some time away from the team right now to kind of regroup and, deal with what's going on in his personal life.
Look, there is a fantasy implication here because Filip Gustavssion might be worth a look in a lot of formats because say what you will about when he comes back or not, and that might only be 2 days, like you said. It's clearly been affecting him, and what is it going to mean for his success down the stretch here? And this Minnesota team is very much alive in that Central Division, and they have aspirations for the playoffs and the Cup. They will put Filip Gustavsson in that cage if Marc-Andre Fleury can't figure it out, and maybe we're not going to hold anything against him because I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate either, Steele. But on an episode that I just told you to make sure that you take care of your loved ones, look, I'm wearing the Bills jersey. We know what's gone on with the player, with Damar Hamlin and the Buffalo Bills. This is a personal matter that we're not going to speculate, but it means implications for your fantasy team. So take a look at Filip Gustavsson because also, Steele, you and I can both agree, this has not been Marc-Andre Fleury's season, and he looks to have been fighting it, whether it's personal or not. For me, if I'm a Minnesota Wild fan, I wish the best for him 100%. But I want Filip Gustavssion in that cage if Marc-Andre Fleury is not ready to go physically, mentally, or otherwise.
Yeah, and that's clear, even from the start of the season, a very slow start for Marc-Andre Fleury and the Minnesota Wild. Very tough to watch those games back in early October, but started to pick it up in November, picked it up more in December, and now 2023 kind of slowing down a bit again. Just don't want to put too much speculation on it, but again, like you said, Filip Gustavssion, we've seen what he can do backing him up. We've seen him go on stretches of five wins in a row at some point in the season as well. So Filip Gustavssion can definitely get it done. And if he's available, in your league, I would definitely go pick him up off the waiver wire.
That's the takeaway here, because also one thing you can say about Marc-Andre Fleury, whether his season is impressing you or not, 13-8-2 this season, 1 shutout, 2.94 goals against, and a 901 save. He is a professional and elite goalie across his career. And when I see things going on, like I've seen him fighting it this year, it doesn't feel right for Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm not saying he needs to retire. I just know that I'd be keeping an eye on Filip Gustavssion. And like Steele said, if you have the opportunity to, I'd be adding him right now if you're a Marc-Andre Fleury GM, because something doesn't sit right with me with Marc-Andre Fleury right now. That's the takeaway here, Steele. We got a lot more to take away from this episode. We're going to get to the waiver wire. We're going to get to big-time bets. But we got to talk about this NHL All-Star game, and say what you will about the NHL and say what you will about your take on the NHL All-Star festivities, because there are sometimes lukewarm entertainment there at best. They're supposed to be highlighting the best pieces in the NHL, and that means fantasy implications. And I don't know about you, Steele, and I'll kick this off right quick. The fact that David Pastrnak is not the representative for the Boston Bruins. I know Linus Ullmark, special things. This is Linus Ullmark's first season doing this. And I don't know about you, but the last time someone tuned into the NHL All-Star game to watch a goaltender do some things is how about never? This is supposed to be showcasing the best players in the league. David Pastrnak, that's a snub for me. But honestly, this one representative per team thing is a bit silly for me. And that's probably just the whole situation right there.
Look, I don't agree with the one representative per team either. I think it's the best of the best, no matter what. If it comes from 3 players on one team, or 1 player on, or 0 from one team, I think it's the best of the best. So I agree with you there. I don't agree that it should be David Pastrnak. I really like Linus Ullmark and what he's been able to do this year. Look, I understand that this is the first time that he's done this in his career. But he's doing it. Look at the things that he's accomplished so far for the Boston Bruins.
It's special.
We know how great David Pastrnak is. He's been there before. We know what he does. And look, I would be very grateful to see Pastrnak at the All-Star game too. But Linus Ullmark has been the beast for the Boston Bruins in the crease, and I'm okay with it. I'm definitely okay with it. For me, actually,
who you got?
For me, I'm actually looking at the Colorado Avalanche. I understand why they have Cale Makar, the generational defenseman, but Mikko Rantanen
should have been Rantanen.
Deserves to be in the All-Star game, even though if people don't like watching or whatnot. Rantanen has been the offensive force for the Avalanche this entire season, leading the team, 48 points in 38 games. Obviously, McKinnon was injured. Nichushkin's been injured. Landeskog's been injured. Nonetheless, Rantanen has been the force for the Avalanche, and I understand where they're coming from, but it should have been Rantanen.
100%. That's my second snub. We're keeping the snub short because, like you said, Steele, I actually fault the whole system. And again, this is the NHL.
Yeah.
This is a league that doesn't get a lot of things right when it comes to their PR, when it comes to selling and showcasing this league, the talent and the players. They are missing the mark, and they miss it again here with this one player per team representative BS. We're not going to break that down. Mikko Rantanen has also, everything you said accurate, he's carried this Colorado Avalanche team. Aside from Alexander Georgiev, who I think you and I need to do a little bit of a goalie regroup this week. Stay tuned for the end of the week. We're going to talk about goalies because Alexander Georgiev has been really impressing me. And aside from Georgiev, obviously Makar and now McKinnon back, it's been Rantanen who's put this team on his back with all the injuries. Him not being there doesn't make any sense to me. Sure, it's Cale Makar instead. Mistake. That's definitely my second snub. Where's yours at?
Well, I have 2 more guys. And,
here we go.
My second guy is actually Jordan Kyrou of the St. Louis Blues. He should have been in the All-Star game, and he actually might be at this point.
Well, that's the case. These players still could get voted in.
Yeah, and, for me, it's more the fact that Tarasenko got voted in before him, even though he's the 5th best player on the Blues right now.
That's a bad one, yeah.
Jordan Kyrou leading the team, 38 points in 37 games. So
Mm-hmm.
Kyrou definitely, at this point, he probably will be because Tarasenko's injured. Not to forget about that. So
still, though, bad decision.
Bad decision. Should have been voted in first before Tarasenko. But actually, I'm looking at Travis Konechny of the Philadelphia Flyers. I understand again why Kevin Hayes got listed. He was the point leader for so long in the season. But looking at the stats right now, Konechny 40 points in 5 less games than Kevin Hayes right now. 40 points in 33. Hayes has 35 and 38. So I really like what Konechny has done the last 3 to 4 weeks for the Philadelphia Flyers. But again, Kevin Hayes was the point leader for so long, and I understand why he got voted in.
Man, I hear you, and thank you for highlighting. I've been, if any of my friends of this podcast are listening, they're going to go, Steele, how much money is Flip giving you to talk about Travis Konechny? Because I've been talking about Travis Konechny for a while, and now he's finally really starting to show out.
Yeah.
So thank you for showing some love to him. At the end of the day, I think you and I just needed to hit this conversation with what it's worth. And the NHL needs to do better at showcasing its top players. The NHL All-Star festivities, I think, need to give their head a shake because also you don't have Austin Matthews included in this. And I know Mitch Marner is obviously deserving, but it goes to your point. Both of those players need to be in the All-Star game. You want Austin Matthews in these skill competitions. You want David Pastrnak in the shooting competitions. One per does not make sense. It's supposed to be the best of the best. Just like this episode, which is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Our partner with Athletic Greens, we use this product almost every single day. And we started AG1 using it because Steele's back at the gym. I'm trying to get healthy, and it helps you before and after the gym, even with breakfast. It costs less than $3 a day, and if you're investing in your health, it's cheaper than your even cold brew habits. Shout out to your favorite coffee spot. It's cheaper than getting yourself a whole bunch of different supplements, and you're investing in an all-in-one nutritional, delicious substitute. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews and is recommended by professional athletes around the world and trusted by health experts such as Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervais. Make sure you are checking out this lifestyle-friendly paleo, vegan, and dairy-free option that is AG1 from Athletic Greens. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just 1 scoop in water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different supplements and pills to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs for your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. That is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your next listen, though, please go check out Locked On NHL Prospects Podcast, your daily podcast covering the next generation of hockey superstars leading all the way up to the NHL draft this summer. Plus, NHL draft ranking and top prospect comparisons for your favorite teams in the NHL. Locked On NHL Prospects. You can get them on any of your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube, just like this podcast right here. And thank you so much for tuning back in with us. Let's get over to what you come to listen to on this at Monday's episode, really, the waiver wire targets, and of course, big time bets at the end of the episode. I'm looking at all forwards here, Flip, for Monday. I'm looking at all forwards coming from the Western Conference, too.
I think I know where you're headed.
I'm going to start off with the Arizona Coyotes, Nick Schmaltz, owned at 23 and 40% across ESPN and Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. 7 goals, 18 points in 22 games since returning back in late November from that injury, or early November from the injury. He's been pretty good on the top line. The peripheral stats, are a little bit struggling. Only 40 shots, less than 10 blocks and 10 hits on the season. That's not his game, though.
No.
Nonetheless, Nick Schmaltz, I really like his game. He does a ton of offense. And the Coyotes have 4 games this upcoming week. San Jose Sharks, Ottawa Senators, Minnesota Wild, and Winnipeg Jets. So 2 out of the 4 are a little bit easier than the others. But like I've mentioned before, the Arizona Coyotes can sneak up on you and take wins from some of the top teams in the league.
They can, Steele. And look, I mentioned the crucial time in the schedule for fantasy GMs right now. If you have an injury, and you're not getting a single point, not a shot, not a block, nothing from some bodies in your lineup because you don't have a player in there, these are the guys to go to 3 and 4 games just by default. Getting all that ice time. You need to be taking a shot at some of these guys, especially a guy like Nick Schmaltz, who has proven that he can get it done regardless of really who he's playing with. So good point here on Nick Schmaltz and look, Steele. I don't think we could have come on here and talk waiver wire ads without talking about one player that you really like and another that you know I really like, and they're both on the Seattle Kraken. And let me start with Jared McCann.
Yes, thank you.
Your boy quietly has 19 goals this season. Nobody talking about them. And if you've been watching some Seattle Kraken game, and obviously now that they're on the East Coast and playing Canadian teams, we have been seeing them live and in color. This Seattle Kraken team is starting to really impress me, and you called them out from the start of the season. They had their downturns. I don't know where they're actually going to end up, Steele, but right now you can't help but feel they're trending in the right direction and again sitting comfortably in third in that Pacific Division. And what I wanted to highlight before I get to my second Seattle Kraken player, if you don't mind, the Seattle Kraken team is sitting 4th in the NHL in goals scored. So if you're looking for a shot in the arm this week for some scoring, Jared McCann's owned at 37% in ESPN leagues. And wait, 3 goals, 2 assists in his last 4 games. Jump on Jared McCann and the Kraken while they're hot because they're scoring goals right now, Steele.
Absolutely love this from you, Flip.
Bang.
I did my best trying to stay from talking about Jared McCann, but I couldn't do it any longer. But I'm glad because he's on my list. I actually have 2 Seattle Kraken on my list as well, along with another player. I was going to save them for last, but I got to get to them right now.
Go.
Jared McCann, like you said, on my list. 21 to 37% rostered right now between Yahoo and ESPN League. So he's definitely available. A guy that's scoring 19 goals, 27 points is incredible in 35 games, 70 shots, 30 hits. Like you said, 4-game point streak, and the icing on the cake here. The Kraken play 4 games this week as well.
Yes,
the Montreal Canadiens, Buffalo Sabres, Boston Bruins, and Chicago Blackhawks. And they're scoring at will right now. You said it all about Jared McCann. But another Kraken that I really like, and even a guy who I've picked up a few times this season, Brandon Tanev, has been lights out. Roster between 19 and 32%, playing on the 4th line. The fact that he's on the 4th line, playing less than 14 minutes a game, he has 20 points in 38 games, on pace for career highs in majority of his stats, 62 shots, 92 hits, 38 blocks. He's a plus 20 on the season. Absolutely incredible. And to me, what really stands out, obviously that game against the Senators the other day, 8-4 win for the Kraken, but it's what head coach DJ Smith said after the game. The Kraken's 3rd and 4th line is what rips other teams apart. They're so good up and down.
I think we've said that a couple times on this show.
Daniel Sprong,
Brandon
Tanev, Morgan Geekie, Yanni Gord. These guys get it done every single time they step on the ice. I love it. And like, again, with Jared McCann, Seattle Kraken have 4 games this upcoming week. So those 2 guys you can pick up.
This is a nice little segue to later in the week, Steele. We will be having the host of the Locked On Kraken on the podcast. We're nailing down details. We want to talk more in detail about the Seattle Kraken because my take for this, Steele, is also there's some very intriguing dynasty pieces on this Seattle Kraken team. And you mentioned the bottom 6. I'm sticking with the Kraken, and very quickly, because we're going to get to big-time bets, Vince Dunn has 5 points in his last 2 games. He is rostered. He's up there. 60%. He's scoring goals, but also his line on Saturday night, goal, 3 shots, assist, +3, 4 hits, 2 block shots against the Senators. Say what you will about the Senators. You need a little bit of a fill in Vince Dunn. You got to be going there for your blue line options. 60% owned. He might not be out there, but you know I've talked about this player before, and I really like it. Very quickly, Steele, before we go to break-in bets. 2 other players, and I'm not even going to give the breakdown. The Buffalo Sabres are playing 4 games this week. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I know I'm butchering that name. The goaltender in Buffalo, he's put up 6 wins in his last 6 games. If you need a goalie fill in this week, I would be going to the Buffalo Sabres, who look really good right now. And again, we mentioned it last week. Max Pacioretty in his return, 2 goals in his second game, looked very good.
Love
Pacioretty has got to be on the waiver wire targets for this week, Steele. He slots right in there with a couple of other really good players in Carolina with Aho and Jarvis, and regardless of where he goes, he's going to score points.
Love those takes as well. I was looking at a couple Sabres as well on the third line. Victor Olofsson and Casey Mittelstadt.
Yep.
Who have,
Mittelstadt's look great.
Mittelstadt's look good. Olofsson had 2 goals against the Wild as well. But my last player, real quick. Again,
Please.
I'm not sure how a 15-goal scorer, 33-point player is owned less than 50% on Yahoo in Logan Couture right now.
Yeah.
He does everything for the San Jose Sharks. They might not be a good team, but 14 special team points on the season, 94 shots, 63 hits, 40 blocks. The peripherals are up. Logan Couture is leading, or one of the leaders for the San Jose Sharks right there with Tomas Hertl and Timo Meier, obviously. Again, if you want to pick him up, under 48% on Yahoo. He is owned at like 88% on ESPN, so definitely not available there. But the Sharks play the Coyotes, the Kings, and the Oilers this week. Maybe not as advantageous as the other players we've mentioned, but nonetheless, 15 goal scorer, 33 points. Definitely go pick him up if he's available. Let's get over to big time bets, baby. Let's get to where the money is made.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Again, make sure you go hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. We appreciate all the love and support out there. Thank you so much. Don't be afraid again to drop some comments on the YouTube channel. DM us on our Twitter account, LO_fantasy NHL. We appreciate the connections with all of our listeners out there. And with that being said, Flip, I'll hand it over to you for Monday's big time bets.
Thank you very much. We took a little bit of heat for our second half breakout candidates. And I love getting feedback from our listeners, but I said Stützle is going to go off. And if you haven't been paying attention, my man is now on a impressive heater. Last 5 games, 7 goals, 3 assists. And his last game, a Hattie, getting it done. Say what you will about what's happening with the Ottawa Senators overall. My boy is coming out of his shell. And I said my 80-point prediction, our bet, and I'm going to check it because I have it written down somewhere. We got a 20 on this. I think it's 80 points. I need 81 points from Tim Stützle to make money. Is that a big-time risk? It is, but he's already cracking that 39-point mark, Steele, and I'm going to stop the preamble and pumping my own tires. Tim Stützle tonight against the Nashville Predators. I don't know where this game goes. I actually would lean the Nashville Predators if I was making a bet. But I think Stützle and the Sens still get a couple of goals here because that's kind of been what they're doing. They're putting up goals and they're still losing games. Stützle, anytime assist, because as much as he's been scoring, he's been chipping in with assists too, and I think you'll get a decent odd with this. Stützle, anytime assist, that's my first pick of the night.
He has been fantastic for my fantasy team. I'll tell you that right now.
There you go.
So appreciate you kind of nudging him my way before we did our draft.
There you go. You're welcome.
I'll get over to that game for my lock of the night, though. But first, I'm starting off a little spicy with my first 2 picks. I'm taking the Sabres on the puck line against the Philadelphia Flyers. The Sabres, like you said, top team in goals for, scoring goals at will right now. The Flyers are actually playing a back-to-back. They played against the Maple Leafs on Sunday, so playing the Sabres on Monday. I don't like the back-to-back against the Sabres who just, again, score goals at will. So first pick Sabres on the puck line. But I'm also taking the Kraken on the puck line against the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh.
The Montreal Canadiens did beat the St. Louis Blues 5-4 over the weekend, but the Kraken, again, like you just mentioned, scoring goals at will, one of the top teams in goals for this year. And I just, every once in a while, the Montreal Canadiens will win a game like we just saw and maybe show some effort. But they're the Montreal
it wasn't
Canadiens.
Pretty, though.
It was not pretty whatsoever, Flip. I like the Kraken right now. I'm taking the Kraken on the puck line with my second pick.
Yeah, I looked at that game long and hard, Steele, and I'm going to talk about it for my lock of the night, and I think you're going to like my angle. And, hey, I'm on the Sabres tonight, too. And when I look back at the recent matchups between the Flyers and the Sabres, aside from the Flyers being in action against the Toronto Maple Leafs, which say what you will about whatever unfolds in this game, that's a tough matchup for the Flyers, and a back-to-back for any team, let alone a bad team, is tough when you don't have any goaltending depth and they don't have that. The last 5 games between these two clubs, Sabres taking all 10 points. And in that span. 26 goals scored for the Buffalo Sabres. Sabres on the money line is my second pick, and if you don't mind, that Seattle and Montreal game, there might be a little bit of a momentum bump for the Montreal Canadiens with that win. That's just how bad they've been. So I'm a little bit concerned about betting on puck line, money line, or otherwise. If I was, I would be leaning Seattle. But this is going to be a high-scoring game. The Kraken are going to get theirs against Sam Montembeault, Jake Allen, or whoever is thrown out there for the Montreal Canadiens. I think you'll like that because I can see this being easily 4-3 Kraken, 5-3 Kraken. That's how I would lean. I know you got the puck line, so I'm not trying to throw any hate. Seattle at Montreal over the number. That's my lock of the night, Steele.
Yeah, I don't mind that whatsoever. I'm going back to that Predators Senators game for my lock of the night. I am leaning towards the Predators on the money line. However, I do think it is a close game, 3-2, 4-2 in Nashville Predators' favor. But, that game against the Kraken was definitely a struggle for them. Anton Forsberg did not look good in the first 5 minutes. I think he let 3 goals in on the first 5 or 6 shots of the game. Cam Talbot comes into the crease. He started off a little bit good, and then he lets 5 goals in. So I'm not sure what's going on with the Senators goalies right now, but I'm definitely going to lean the Predators on the money line. A little bit of a closer game. We know the Predators are a second half season team. So that's my lock of the night, Flip. Just to reiterate, Predators on the money line, my lock of the night. Flip, what is your lock of the night once again?
Kraken at Canadiens over 6.5. It just feels like a high scoring game, Steele. I keep saying that, but it keeps banging. So let's get this money.
Let's get this money indeed, Flip. Hopefully we start off the week hotter than the previous week, how we finished, which was a little bit of a struggle for us. Let's get back on the ball here. Let's make this money. Hopefully our listeners making some money out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, make sure you go check out Locked On NHL Prospect Podcast, your daily podcast covering the next generation of hockey superstars leading all the way up to the NHL draft this summer. Locked On NHL Prospects, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, just like this podcast right here, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. You don't want to miss out. Flip and I are coming out with all the heat on the fantasy takes. Again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.